So I'm hoping that we'll be able to reflect back and forth and be able to all come out of this with a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more ability to heal many of the things that are dysfunctional in our families and our children today. Pastor?
My name is Pastor Omega Jenkins, pastor church here in Orlando, True Baptist Church. It's on Boulevard. I've worked on the side of work in corrections. I worked in Orange County Corrections for 17 years. Now over at Osceola County Corrections, I've been there for 2 years. A father of 3 sons and 1 daughter, 1 daughter-in-law. I have 2 granddaughters and 1 grandson. And I'm still gaining experience and a lot of the good doctor here to explain. So I'm learning on that journey. But as Brother Morse said, he joined my church years back and constantly keeping updated on his vision of this summit and conference with you. And I'm just thankful to be able to be here and open discussion. I have to say that my answers will be biblically founded. I probably won't give my opinions. I was married to an amazing woman for 19 years, and which the Lord has called her home just about a month ago. So,
yes, sir.
Amen. I didn't say that to bring sympathy. As I said, amazing woman. My thing was when I got up to introduce her, I'd say it in the words of that old rhythm and blues singer, "Ain't no woman." Yes, we have experience, wonderful marriage within years and children. So I'm just thankful to be here and offer whatever I can to resolve whatever issue that's presented.
My name is Vincent Carter. I'm the director of a program called Midnight Basketball. It's a youth intervention program, and I'm a part of the Center for Drug-Free Living. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm also a basketball coach, a mentor, a social activist, a leadership consultant, and a person who has had the absolute experience of dealing with 8 kids. Divided populated by 4 and 4, who have absolutely contributed to the wisdom which you see here today. Also, the fact that while I have no hair is not genetic. Simply, it's not a genetic issue. It has to do with raising kids. I have several letters behind my name, of which I do not know what they represent. But I can tell you about being a father. I can tell you about being a coach. I can tell you about being a mentor, and I can tell you about working with kids. And that's what we're going to talk about. So this is a little bit about who we are. And what we want to try to do now, I want to piggyback off of what the pastor said earlier, but here's what we're talking about. We're talking about empowering you as parents. And how to, because there is a direct correlation, and statistics will bear this out, from suicide to bullying to violent crime as it relates to where these children come from and what they've seen. They weren't born that way. They're not born that way. They were influenced by that. Some of that's come from their peers. I would certainly say that. But sometimes it comes from our well-being as parents. And that's tough to hear. Okay, one of my kids right now, and I started the conversation. Yeah, I have one of my, you know, you don't have favorite children if you have more than one. You got one that you feel close to. The one I feel this close to is incarcerated. We speak to this day, right now. Come from a decent home. Okay, decent upbringing. I mean, we were reasonably financially secure, I guess. I guess we were middle class, I'm not sure. Okay, I've never been to jail, never used drugs, alcohol, anything. I drank a little bit, yes, I did. How better for me to be able to consult with others if I am not trying myself?
All right.
Okay, let's be real now, be real, okay. But when you look at that, I could very easily, and this could be the plight of many, and I've done this seminar with parents before from a little different angle, but same thing. I could walk away saying, woe is me, what did I do wrong to him that would cause him to take the actions he did? But I got 7 other kids who are reasonably doing well as far as I know as of this morning. I don't know what happened since I've been in here, okay? Let me give you an incident. I went to the school one day to check on one of my children. The principal called and said, you need to come see this boy. I said, okay, let me go see what we're going here. And they accused him of doing several different things. And they said, do you think that's true? I said, I don't know. I don't know. He may have. I know what he's been taught, but what he'll do, I don't know. And that's what my mother said to me one day, and I was saying to myself, as much as you have twisted my ear, slapped me in the top of my head, warmed my bottom, and converse with me. You don't know what I do. I'm scared of you. But the reality of the matter is we don't know what they will do. I know we've been taught. I did not teach my son to go to jail. I did not teach him to use drugs, sell drugs, be involved. I love him dearly now. He asks me all the time. He said, Daddy, you go out and talk all the time. Do you ever talk about me? Absolutely. Absolutely. The day he turns around, I will retire from all of my activities. I will have made my mark. But it's the passion in our hearts of what we're talking about. And in single-parent household, I'm a product of a single-parent household. It has its downfalls and it has its upswings. And one thing I want to say to you, don't take it personal. You're not going to raise a perfect child. My mother was very proud of me, but I'm not a perfect child. You're not going to raise a perfect child. You're going to have challenges, even men have challenges raising kids. There's some single men, now Pastor can speak to that. Okay, it's not easy, but you got to understand, here's where I want to start from. And I'm going to turn it over to these guys. But here's where I want to start from. No. What does no mean? No means no. No doesn't mean maybe I will. If you come back and smile at me, I will. I used to go to my mother when she was asleep and say, "Ma, can I get $20?" She said, "Oh." I wait a few minutes and I come back. "Mama, can I get $10?" And she said, "No." And I come back. "Mama, can I get $5?" My nana, see, categorically, she's deep sleep now. She in a REM sleep. She should be dreaming. You know what she said? No. She said no means no. Is that true in your house? Is it true of you and how you did? One of the, and we're going to go and Pastor, I ain't going to throw you in the bus like you threw me. I'm going to slide you under the bus. I'm not just going to throw you. I'm going to slide you under the bus. There are some issues as parents that I have dealt with as a doctor. I do some counseling and I deal with kids. And here's something that I had an experience with. A young man who committed, actually the person actually died. He shot them and they died. Young kid, I'm talking not even a teenager yet. Go to prison to visit him. Or in jail where he was. Hardcore. I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. And the guy I went with reached out, we sat there and talked to him for 10, 15 minutes. I'm convinced we're going to have to do some tough love. That's my specialty. That's my specialty. I'm like, okay, let me take my coat off. Boy, we getting ready to get down on this. I'm getting ready to do what I do best. And the guy was a pastor. He got up, walked over, and hugged this young man. He broke into tears as a 2-year-old. Broke in, I'm not talking about drips, I'm talking about crying. He was 13 years old, had never been hugged. 13 years old. How can that happen? We as parents sometimes create the problems which we have. Looking at it from the, we're going to take the clinic, we're going to go jail then clinical. And I can talk a little bit about social. You go to jail and listen to some of these fellas and you hear them say things from a wide variety of reasons. And most of the time when they've been there a while, they become very honest as to why they're there. They tell you the truth. No one stopped me. No one gave me any value. No one would tell me what my boundaries were. They just let me do what I want to do. And a lot of parents will do that because they think I'm winning my child, I'm helping him. When you're absolutely endangering them. That's cause and effect. I want them to have something I didn't have. Then you need to hit them one more time. When I say hit, and I don't mean that, you can do it violently if that's what you need to do. Especially what I'm talking about is getting in touch. My grandmother used to call it getting in touch. Come here so we can get in touch. I know we're already in touch. We're talking about a deeper relationship. Amen. And see, I always thought she meant from a biblical standpoint, we're going to lay hands on you. So I run there like a knucklehead, and I got hands laid on me. But we need to be careful of how we treat that. Pastor here deals with men on a rebound. When you start talking to them and get deeper into the psychosis or the clinical part of it, a lot of it's a social issue. My mom, I had a kid one day who because I coach basketball and I'm involved in the community from that aspect. Kid said, I wish I lived with you. And I couldn't imagine that because you can't imagine me as a coach. I'm ex-military, so everything to me is either left or right. There's no middle ground as far as I'm concerned. We mean middle. There's no gray. It's black, white. That's the way I see it. And to see how I'm a disciplinarian. My mother was a school teacher, you know, all that stuff is in the back of my mind. I come out of retail with things that used to be lined up. I think you begin to see my personality. Yeah, 1 fathers, 2, 3, 4. That's the way I see things. Why do you want to come with me? I'm the last person you ought to want to be with, because I created structure. When I said no, he knew I meant no. He understood. That's what he was looking for in his life. And I'm the last person you want to be with. He said, I know you really love your children. How do you know that? Ask my children. They don't think so. And he said, because what time do your kids have to be home? They have to be in the house by dark. That's what I was raised on. Dark. Amen. You better hope for daylight saving time. So but he brought me in. And he said, because you put limits on your children. I can stand all I want to. Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? Pastor, I want you to speak to your experiences in the jail system as we begin to hear, because sometimes, in single mothers, sometimes you get a bad rap. It is your fault sometimes, but sometimes it's not your fault. Because what you are doing, sometimes you need support. The excuse, and I would say, and I've always said this to single mothers, there is no excuse. I think it's unfair to blame you for being mom, because that's all you can be as mom. That's all grandmothers can be as grandmothers. Grandmothers cannot be grandfathers. Mothers cannot be fathers. Okay? The community, the association in which I belong, that's where we need to come to your rescue, or come to your aid, come to your assistance. But sometimes you prevent us from getting there. You stop not on this, my baby. Okay, and your point would be. Okay. I wish I had a mother like that. I truly wish my mother was here. I wish she was alive so she could tell you now how much she loved me. Yeah. Yeah. You might have believed it. I was having difficulty with it until I got a little bit older. And I understood what she meant. I was coming up. And she said, you know what? And here's the famous line. Then Pastor, I want you to get in. Here's the famous line that it took me 27 years to understand. It's going to hurt me more. It's going to hurt me more. It's going to hurt me. 27 years before I understood that. And I reached across the room one day to get my same youngest son. And those same words I uttered, it's going to hurt you. No, I didn't say it's going to hurt me. I said, it's going to hurt you more. It's going to hurt me. But I understood because that was my child. But I had to induce something upon him that I can make an impression. Sometimes we hurt more than we hurt. Pastor.
Well, thank you. Good morning. My experience, I grew up in the country in Georgia. Mother and father. You know, father ruled the house with an iron hand. You know, there was no compromise, no timeouts, and you know, divorcing my parents and all that. You know, it wasn't anything. It was just that was it. He didn't have an education, but he had what they call mother wit. He was a very, very wise man, and they were just a team. They were a team. So, as I grew older, went out on my own, met my wife who was dating. She came from the same household. So, you know, this is all the world we know. As I became working corrections, I was eventually put with juvenile. What they call adjudicated as adults. These are young men under the age of 18 who had committed or were charged with some serious crimes, and they were being, you know, actually charged as adults, or they were separate from the adult population. That's where my metamorphosis began, because now I'm seeing a child who don't know who his daddy is, and I couldn't even fathom that, because growing up in the country in Georgia, I had all my friends, their parents may have been together, but they knew their dad was. So, you know who your dad is. You know, it was just an eye-opener for me. And we had one incident. Well, before we get to that, what began my real change was, we had this thing with juveniles that, and it's been years ago, so I'm a changed man now. They can be very aggressive. So we had a team, one particular supervisor put together a team of officers. I was one of the team of officers. And there was a way we was going to get, at that time, big juvenile population, like 90-something young men under the age of 18, all being child adults. So they're very hardcore, slick, whatever, street raised, everything. And they would all constantly have fights and fights and fights. And so this one gentleman, he was tasked by the jail to put together what they call a juvenile attack team. I was one thing, and one thing we derived how to get control of it, you know, was a lot of different methods. And one of them wasn't pleasant. And so, and then we went in like lions, you know, just getting this thing all under control. And I was enjoying it. I'm not gonna lie, enjoying it until, you know, when God has appointed you for something, somebody's gonna see it in you, no matter how you're acting. They're gonna see. And what I began to see was these young men, and I'm talking about I was quick to go upside your head, and you know, I had the signature ring, and when I turned my ring in, they knew what was about to happen.
Man.
Yeah.
Know that too.
And at first, had young men, you know, they would fight you and things, but you know, of course, it was no problem for us. We used to say, listen, I'm gonna give you an order. You know, follow that order. We're gonna supersize that order. And then we saw that the other kids became fans of us, and they would say, Mr. G, you gonna supersize it? You gonna supersize it? And I said, oh, you know, something in me said, you know what, I don't want this reputation. But what really got me was there was a parent. Her son had been tried and convicted of armed robbery. He was actually sentenced to like 20-something years. He was only 16. The mother came out to the jail and asked for me. And I go up to talk to her. And I'm looking, because I know her, one of the sons that had tasted some supersize. So I'm trying to think what lawyer I can call before she starts. Yeah, I'm categorically denied everything, you know. But she said, I just wanted to talk with you and ask if you could pray my son. He speaks so well of you. And I'm looking at my name tag. Me? I know this is it. She said, he speaks so well of you. She said, how you're very stern, but you're fair, and you make sure they have the things they need, which that I did. And she said, you know, he's been going to prison for a long time. She said, it's my fault. And she began to explain to me how she covered and she basically took up for everything he did. She said, no, he didn't. Till this happened. And it happened, it wasn't like a big investigation, because when he held up the people in the store, the owner of the store made him, he fired the gun. He didn't hit anybody, but he fainted. And so there was no need for investigation. I tell you, he was just a baby, you know, trying to do these things. So, you know, but she said it was my fault because, and she just went on and said how she made excuses for him, excuses. He said, but you're the first man that he ever spoke of with respect, you know. And of course, I encouraged her and you know, put her in touch with the chaplain of the jail and, you know, those things. And I went back to the pod. I had to tell the guys on my attack team, you know, we got to do this a different way. We can't beat them into righteousness. They're seeing something else, no matter what we're doing, they're seeing other things in us. I do this. And I spoke with the corporal that was over us, and he said, Jenkins, I was waiting for you to tell me that. He said, you got them now. Now what are you going to do with them? You know, you only beat them down for so long. You got to start building them up at some point. And we're thankful that jail got behind us. We had Mid-Florida Tech, I want to say, they brought out professors and instructors to talk about, give them other options other than how to make money. Many of them didn't even know how much money a plumber made. Many of them didn't know that they can have their own business and, you know, those things, and what areas are, you know, they may not be able to go to, you know, 4-year college, but they didn't know about these things. And so we began to bring people out from Mid-Florida to tell them about other avenues of money, you know, what's not, you know, what's attainable to them. And so that began my journey. Having 3 sons, well, it affected me. I don't want to stay too long, but it affected me because I was always raised to provide. I was always raised, my father taught me to provide, protect, and secure. And that's my thing. Provide, protect, and secure. And what happened, I see these young men and see how warped their thinking was. And I go home and I see my son make the slightest mistake, and I go through the roof. And what I didn't realize was I was seeing the young man that I was supervising instead of seeing my son. And it caused a rift for years. When my wife took sick and could not, and I have that one that's close to me, which is my oldest son. for some reason, he's always understood me. And he's my counselor. And I really need him. And I'm not telling nobody that. But the other two, they didn't. But what I found out, what I had to do after my wife took sick, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the year 2000. And over those years, until this year, she passed on a health decline. I had to, not only, I knew how to provide, right? I knew how to protect, and I could definitely secure my family. But what I had to learn was how to nurture.
There you go.
Because at that time, she stayed in the hospital for months on end. I didn't know how to nurture. I had to start all over in my parenting. It was something that I'm still learning. My sons now, my two younger sons, my oldest son, he's 25 now. He has a wife. He has 3 children, and they're going good. I have 2 at home, which are 19 and 17-year-old. And they still laugh at me for trying to be this nurturer, because I'm so used to being that strong fist like my father. But now, when they argue, they disagree, here I come with this little soft approach, and they see I look so funny trying to do it. And I have to go out and jog a mile or so just to get in. But, it's learning. And I found out, going back to the jail, these young men, they never had nurturing from a man's perspective. They only knew nurturing from a woman's perspective. And I didn't realize what I began to do. And really, the violence was only when they became so disruptive. But once they come off of that, we actually did nurture. We began to instill programs and contests and things for them, and then we would congratulate them when they would do well and speak to them about the choices and those things, and found out that it was nurturing. So I know the title of this is Resentful to Resourceful, and I just want to say, prior to them getting up, is that one bridge to being resentful to getting into resourcefulness is nurture.
Pastor, the part that you actually didn't talk about, actually he named the workshop, and the resentment part comes from the breakup. Married, husband and wife, divorced. And so what happens is that now I hate him, or I hate her. And who suffers is the child. So what part of it that we wanted to talk about as well was, how do I get past that hate to be the best mother or the best father I can be, because the child is usually stuck in the middle. And you can talk about this as well, is how a lot of times the parent play off the child to get at this person. Never mind what the child needs. I want to get at you. So I do all these things towards the child, which you don't see what you're doing because you're so caught up into your emotions and your relationship that now I got to get past this to be the best mother or father I can be. But not only that, to be the best person that I can be, because I'm really hurting myself. And that's how that became from resentment to resourceful.
That having been said, we need now, you've heard a little bit about where we come from, and we're going to get more clinical, and I think when you begin to speak, we want to hear from you, in your experience, as the doctor said here, because I can tell you where I have been and what I see on a daily basis, because I deal with you from the street to the clinic, all in position. And I've also been a parent. What are you facing? What do you see? Because some of you are in the same situation. You're in a breakup of whether it be relationships and or marriage. And whether you realize it or not, we all bring baggage. The difference is how well you manage your baggage. There is a certain amount of resentfulness that takes place. Sometimes you blame one member or another. And as the pastor said, and I think the doctor can conclude, is that you're looking for an ear, and sometimes that's that child. Because they sit there and they listen. Sometimes the resentment that a child has for his or her parent is not something that they had, something they were given. They've heard you talk about him or her so much in a negative sense that they adopt that. That then gets played out someplace else. Where have you been? Where are you? How can we help you? Anybody? Tell me where you are. Because that's what we really want to do. I mean, we can give you a lot of stuff, and we will continue to share. But you need to talk about what's your concern.
Well, Mr. Carter, if I may,
Sure.
and I want to say this, that resentful can not only, I know we'll focus on relationships, past or present, but resentfulness can I can't use a lot of big words. I'm going to make friends with Dr.
And they say just make it plain.
Yes, but resentfulness can come from many things, like losing a job that you feel like you had, that you were actually got the raw deal. Losing a loved one. I talk about my wife and being sick. After 8 years with marriage, she took sick and it just on a steady decline. Trust me, it crawled into my mind. I think there are guys out there doing God knows what, They got healthy wives, they can do these things. And Charles know I had the burden of preaching and pastoring the church. And there are times I had to, before I got to Sunday service, my day was I had to get up and give her a bath and give her breakfast and do all that, do everything, encourage her, and then go to church. And then I hear these couples coming complaining. So it don't always just come from just breakups. If you might, we can have a limit to it because it can be very it can be very damaging where it came from. If you haven't gotten or you're not on that bridge to making your frustrations and anger resourceful, then you're in a danger zone. But if you're on the way to make it resourceful, anger is an emotion given to us by God, but it's what we do with the anger that puts us in a bad situation. And many of us know children, have children, because of their anger are in bad situations. So it can come from a lot of places. I imagine if we can open up this a little further.
Yeah. And that was the next thing too to say from a clinical standpoint, doctor. You're looking at when you look at suicide. And we're seeing more and more of that in our youth today, all the way down to elementary. I just experienced an elementary kid who went through that and decided that life wasn't worth living. How can you determine that at such an early age? There's so much yet to see. There are warning signs. There are warning signs. And actually, most people who commit suicide tell you that's what I'm going to do. And what they're asking you to do is to stop me. If you don't stop me, because see, they're not making up their mind. Their mind has been made up. And what you have the opportunity to do is to change that course. Well, resentment in my mind plays in the same way because it could be favoritism over one child or another creates resentful feelings. One of my kids had that, and I immediately began to deal with that. It's not that, it's just your behaviors are different. And I had to identify the difference. But untreated, that becomes a violent nature, that becomes a whole lot of things clinically. It also can lead to drug use, alcohol use, theft, all of those things. And that all starts with us. It all starts with us. That first time they moved that nickel that you had on the jar, that's something. No, it's not all right. It's not all right, because that is the start. It's not so much the movement of the nickel as it's with your response to it. That it's okay. So once it becomes okay here, so then if I take his nickel, it's okay. And if I take his nickel, it's okay. Now I'm going to go to the bank to try to get their nickel. You see what the progression that takes place. And that comes from resentment. I recently, and you can speak more to this from a clinical standpoint, a kid who, an item of great possession, and today, and I'm a tech guru, can't operate most of it. If you make it, I buy it. Okay, I'm one of them kind of folks. Gotta have it. Don't even know what to do with it, but I gotta have it. They took one of his Xboxes away, and he had such resentment that his behavior played out. Okay, and there are statistics to support that those type of behavior, there are chemical imbalances as well, but also there are some social issues that take place. So I want you to speak to that briefly. But then we do need to hear from you and see how we can help you. Doc?
Okay. I'm just fascinated listening to my co-presenters here because that's one of the things that we often, and we, the entire community, doesn't often do, is to talk with each other. We have the resources within our community to heal ourselves, but often, both because of some, at times, instances where we say, well, we ought to be able to handle it. We ought to be able to deal with it. We don't use the resources. Now, I'm going to tell you, when Charles told me the topic, that we had this morning, I said, man, I better get a suit of armor on because I'm going to have to really, get down in it. But the two things I want to say to you, and the brothers here have really outlined it very, very well. I'm hoping that you all are receiving this, in the spirit in which it's meant. But the two things I want to say that I hope capitalize some of what I'm talking about, and that firstly is, your child is not your friend.
Amen.
All right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And okay, I hear sister. Yeah, you got everything. All right. The second thing is that your child is not your baby daddy or your ex-husband or your fiance that was your fiance for the last 15 years. Okay. Or your boyfriend, or whatever title you put on him, okay? And what was just said about resentment is very much on point, because the hurt, and it may be anger, disappointment, rage, whatever, or in some instances, it may be relief. I ain't got to put up with that no more. Okay. Or, okay, you know where I'm coming from. Okay. And it's sure enough nice to be quiet in the house. I ain't got to cook and clean for that. Again, all right? All of that, unless you do some healing around those issues, it is going to influence the way that you parent. Okay? And to my sisters, well, one of the things I want to say on the large stage, and this is historical and maybe political, whatever, but one of the things that has been said, and this was from ancient times, that if you destroy the family, if you destroy the power of the women in any culture, you destroy the culture. Okay, are you with me with that? Yeah. Okay. So that in our experiences, and we are an incredibly resilient people. I mean, we weren't supposed to be here.
That's right.
We were supposed to be long gone, in probably in the same position or worse than the American Indians. Okay? But black folks just refuse to you give us a little bit of daylight, and we exceed, And I will say to you, I'm going to try to get back to the point, but the fact that we have an African American president, an African American first lady, the model of power, in the world, is something that I don't think that we even have fully comprehended at this point. And I know when Brother Barack got elected, we were all, oh man, this is the thing. But just think about what it took, and I'm going to say just a couple things on that. What it took for that sister, okay, to choose this little law intern. Because brother didn't have a pot to whatever in, okay, when Michelle, met him. And sister didn't say, well, my biological clock is ticking, so, I'm going to look at this brother and, whatever. She said, I don't know. I don't know about all of this. I need to check him out. The other thing that happened, and I'm saying this to you single moms because this really applies to you also, that she took him home to the family, okay, and had brother check him out.
That's right.
Okay. All right? And mama checked him out, and the family entirely checked him out. And Michelle was not going to make a move until the family said, okay,
There you go.
you got, I think you're all right. All right? So we today, I think we have been bamboozled by the changes that have occurred from the 1950s to now, where we took the liberty of integration, and instead of taking the best and leaving the rest, we went ahead and we took the whole hog, okay, with the pathology that was already existing in our majority culture, okay? Because divorce rates among our white population had been rising at that time. And we took it to say, well, listen, you know, if Siobhan, my white co-worker, can divorce, you know, this no good husband of her, I'm gonna kick Leroy out the house too. Right? We need to think about those things which have been functional in our culture over years. Many of you know that up to the 1950s, most black children were born in two-parent families.
That's right.
Most black children were born in two-parent families. It is a recent phenomenon that the African-American woman has had to absorb the role of being mama, daddy, auntie, you know, grandma, and the whole deal. And I'm going to get to grandparents in a little bit. But we need to think back and to use some of those skills that our parents taught us, or that were demonstrated, not even taught, but that we saw that had our folks be together. Now, me and my wife, we've been together, and it astounds me that she still puts up with me, but we've been together for 30 some odd years, all right? We fuss at each other, you know, we fight with each other, so it's not no Cosby kind of, you know, relationship, okay? And my wife is a very strong West Indian woman, okay? And I had said, God has a wonderful place, wonderful jokes, because my 3 rules were, do not get involved with any Jamaican woman. Okay? Do not get involved with anybody that the family knows. Okay? And don't make any permanent commitments until you're ready to. And God said, okay. I'm going to show you some stuff. Okay? My wife happens to be Jamaican, very strong. She happens to be the best friend of my cousin, who I said if we break up, I'm going to send her over to you because you're the one that caused the problem. And the third thing was that my sense of being a man, and I say this to my brothers, were that, you know, and with my wife, I had to make the commitment, and I say I had to, because her standards were that she was not going to accept being a girlfriend or a fiance or or having be a baby daddy, etc. And I had to make a decision to say, well, listen, you know, either I'm back out, on the street here looking, or I better keep this woman. Mm-hmm. And I saw the value in her. So why do I say that? Too many of our sisters, my sisters, you, put up with too much, and I'm in the sanctuary, so I'll try to keep it clean. Put up with too much nonsense. Okay, that's number one. Coming back to you all, in terms of what you've experienced in life, you also need to do some self-healing. Many of our young women, before they have grown into being women, and you know from how when you grow up, what your parents and your family looked at as a woman, okay? You were not grown until you had some basic skills, okay? That you knew something about taking care of a house, that you knew something about taking care of yourself, and I'm gonna get basic, keeping yourself hygienically clean as a woman. Am I right? Okay. Knew something about what it meant to take care of a child, because in the older generations, that the older girls were taking care of the younger ones. Okay, so it wasn't like, oh, I want one of those little cuddly little, thing, because I need to have something that makes me feel like I'm a woman, that makes me feel like I'm worthwhile. You knew as an older teenager or whatever what it was, because if mama didn't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you had to get up.
There you go.
When it came to changing the diapers, you had to know how to change that diaper. And it wasn't one of these pull on, you had to know the basics. Okay, our young women today are not getting that kind of education. Okay, so some of what we can still do is to take on self-healing, as mother, and it's never too late. You may be a mother or a grandmother, but you still have the ability to create a healing atmosphere in your family. And some of the things, as Brother Vince talked about discipline, both my mother and father were disciplinarians, okay? Now, mama discipline was different from daddy discipline, okay? And it was one of these things where my mother would see me do something, and she'd go ahead and and give me a few whacks and whatnot, and I'd shed a tear or two, and half of it was to make her feel okay, so that she would feel guilty. So she would have to feel like she's laying a little bit much on. But the thing that always would strike fear in my heart are the simple words: wait until your father gets home.
That's right.
I didn't need the physical beating or after that. The anticipation was the worst thing that I could experience. Okay? And at times by some miracle, my father might be too tired that night. So I would say, thank you, Lord. But then what would happen?
Wake up in the morning.
Is say, your father
Told me. Wasn't necessary with bad words.
Why do I say that to you as some of you as single mothers? The man that made that child that you have, or the man that you call that child's father, is the one who is going to be in your life. Okay? When you have that child, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but when you birth that child into reality, you not only inherit him or her, but you also have to inherit that baby daddy. Whether he is in jail, whether he is out on the street on drugs, whether he is a one-night stand, etc., that child at some point is going to want to know, who is daddy? Okay. When Brother Vince, and Pastor talk about the children that they see in the correctional system, in the drug centers, etc., often those children have been, whether they will say to you or not, in search of who is daddy for many years. Some of the acting out that you see both within the home and in the family is an acting out because that child feels a space, a hurt, a pain that is deep inside that he or she may not talk about, but that is there because everybody wants to know who is daddy, who is mommy. And unless you have an ability, as a child, I know I'm laying a little bit more on you, and you got a lot on your shoulders already, but unless you have some way of making peace, the resentment part, making peace with whoever that baby daddy is, etc. And not peace that, well, I'm going to be your friend, okay? It's not about that. It's about what can you provide that child with so that he knows from whence he came, from who he came. And so that there is an essential task in being able to somehow develop a communication between you and that baby daddy, so that in the 18 plus years, and these days it's some 20 some odd, 30 some odd years, you know, with the economy and whatever that's going on, you're going to have to deal with whoever that person is. You have the ability as a mom, as a grandmother, to define what that relationship is. And if there's time, I'll talk about some things that you can do. But let me end there. And,
okay. Now, good. Go ahead.
I want to ask a question. Women, they marry a man. The man, a lot of times it's not the woman that wants to get divorced. It's maybe the man, or because the man is so out there, they'll feel forced to leave them. But then when they're gone and they're not doing like child support and all that kind of stuff, and the child is in between all that, they need things, and they're hearing the mother say, well, your daddy won't do this and he won't do that, he doesn't pay child support and all of that. How do you kind of like rectify like a relationship? I'm thinking sometimes these kids are angry. Yes. They're angry maybe at the mother for leaving the dad. They might be angry at the dad because he's not seeing them as a personality, but just somebody they have to take care of, and they don't want to take care of them. How do you kind of handle things like that?
I'm going to go first to my colleague. I'll start with you.
A good thing is to have both the parents and together and talk to them, because many times they don't realize what they're doing to the child. Even the mother, although she may be telling the child the truth, that's something the child should learn on their own.
Right.
They don't need any help. If that person, that guy is going to be no good, give that child age of 12, 13, they're going to figure it out. Because just talking about it is not going to make them pay more anyway. So you're going to have to struggle those 10, 12 years anyway. But by the time that child reaches that, and usually 12 or 13, they pretty much figure out, you know, what dad's all about, what mom's all about. So, but a good thing would to talk to the parents and tell them this is not about you, because a lot of times they don't see that. It's what you're doing to this child. You're making this child angry. You're giving this child low self-esteem. You're driving this child to possibly commit some violent crime because the person is angry. They lash out. That's a start. And I'm going to let you.
The second part of that I would like to think you should also do is deal with the child. Give that child, reinforce that they are still valuable. Regardless of the situations going on around them, they are still valuable. That they still are a center of attention, that they are good people. There may be bad circumstances, but they're still good people. Do not, because I think the other situation is just as critical. But what gets lost in that, which is what Pastor is saying, you and I so much at each other, we forget about the child, that we need to reinforce that child and make sure that he or she understands, regardless of what you might need, and I'm going to find a way to get it to you. Somebody's going to get it to you. We'll make it happen. I'm going to be at your concert. I'm going to be at, reinforce that child. Okay, when doing that, so then that's going to be 50% of your battle right there, because if you reinforce the child, he or she then still feels valued. Because if you go and look at it in a greater sense of things, some of the reason kids do various different things for various different reasons, but a lot of statistics says is that I joined the gang because they what? Love me. They accept me for who I am. Okay, I started doing drugs because, not necessarily because I like the drug, it's just where everybody else is and what he or she is looking for. So in addition to getting the parents together and having them to understand, I think phase 2 would be talking to the child, make sure that he or she understands this has nothing to do with you. You're not the cause of it. Okay, at best you become the benefactor of it, but you are not the cause of it. And I still love you, and I'm gonna borrow money, I'm gonna give you my whatever it takes to reinforce them that they are valuable. And I think that's one of the second step. Now, I don't know, Doctor, if you have a third.
Well, again, it's the last point that you're making, and make sure that the child knows that it's not their fault.
Right.
Many youngsters, who get on into the drugs and whatnot, often the children try to interpret situations, and they try to come up with and clarify why this happened, and often many children, not all, many children come up with the thing, well, mommy and daddy would have been together except for me. And that's one of the things. So talking down the dad, whether he is the scum of the earth or whatever in your eyes, but it is important that that child know. And I'm not saying that to get into la la land in terms of describing, because I think the reality, kids have a good reality testing sense most of the time. So that if you are, I said, and you have to say, well, no, the child, the child key didn't come through, but I'm working on it, and it's not your fault.
Right.
I saw a couple other hands.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add also, I heard you saying this, but I just wanted to add to what you were saying about nurturing an environment to where the child isn't holding on to unforgiveness.
Right.
Because then that's when the root of bitterness springs up. And then that's where that cycle of life-controlling behaviors
Correct.
start, and then we start that cycle all over again.
It comes to comfort.
That's
It's
right.
a place they go for comfort.
That's
So I
right.
act out and I feel comfortable.
And they'll look for it in other ways, like the gangs.
Right, exactly.
So if we can point them towards their, some of the values, like their Christian faith,
Yeah.
of, forgiveness, so they're not lugging around this baggage behind them, so they can, foster an environment of healing.
Absolutely.
Doctor, I would like you to focus on the point of male transference, the anger, and can a woman, respectfully, raise a young man? Robert Lewis wrote a book, a very pronounced Christian author, really addresses that fact. And on the flip side, what about the young ladies?
Okay.
It's twofold. It's not one finger pointing in one direction.
Exactly. In terms of male transference, and you may want to just say a couple things more about what did you want to know about?
Speaking to a number of people in somewhat clinical sessions, and that word kept coming up, i.e., and one of the gentlemen alluded to the fact, go to the sister and ask her how her relationship with her father was. Therein lies what she will bring to the table.
Okay, I got where you're coming from.
Okay.
Again, the experiences that both men and women have in coming up often get transferred into the relationships that they have, with the individuals that they particularly choose to be in a relationship with. So that, yes, I think what you were talking about, the generational transference of behavior patterns or relationship patterns, and that's real. We can see it. I remember that there was in my family, a little, I don't know if you want to call it a little folk belief and say, well, look at the mama, and look at the daddy, and you can tell, who you're going to be marrying, okay? When we're in a relationship, we're not only in a relationship with that particular individual, but we're really in a relationship with the entire family. How many folks have had difficulties in a husband-wife or boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, not because of the particular action of the boyfriend, but the family has so much input into the situation that it becomes almost intolerable, and so that the other person in the relationship said, well, listen, you're not looking at me, you're listening to those other folks, and if you're listening to them, where am I? So that the aspect of truly, I use that word, namaste, looking at the divine, we need to look at those things in each other that are our better natures, instead of looking at the negative. Often we are raised in families, not all of us, many of us in families that say, and you've heard the word, and I'm not going to say it, ain't, okay? And all men are dogs, okay? So when that gets to be, okay,
That was a very
So when that gets to be what you bring into, you bring into a relationship, the first thing, if that, and it's been, I mean, we're incredibly, fallible. We kind of simple, and and we're very fallible. So we're gonna make mistakes. We are going to make mistakes. But with the first thing, the mistake, the brother said, "Oh, okay, I knew it." So you ain't nothing but a okay. With girls, and I heard you make a comment about young ladies. Fathers are as important in the life of young ladies as they are with boys. Okay, because where is that young lady going to learn how to relate to men? That's right. Other than by a father. Now, again, reality. We are not in the family structures like we were in back in 1950, etc. But there is still a village out there. One of the functional villages that can be utilized is the church.
Amen.
Okay. Wherein you may not have, that man that you can call on, in the night. But I will bet if your church is worth any good, okay, there should be some brother that you can say, listen, Brother Vince, listen, this boy has been giving me a whole heap of stuff. Can you come over, and have a talk? Or even better, to say, listen, I heard about this midnight basketball.
There you go.
Okay, right, yeah, because you need a little air to breathe.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
Let him be with positive role models. Okay, and often I just want to say this. I'm gonna shut up. That with as being a mom, you have a real tricky role. In the one sense, as a mother or grandmother, that protective role is always going to be primary. Well, I'm not going to let my baby out there. Oh no. You're not going to get out the house. And you hold that boy or that girl in the house. Now, in this electronic age, they don't need to be out of the house. They can bring the world into them.
That's correct.
So that ain't going to help. Simply keeping them in the house. So what you need to do is to be able to to change their environment. If they're on a block where they're nothing but little knuckleheads that are coming up and part of my life, but sometimes it seems that way, okay?
No, it is that way. Let's not say it is that way.
Okay, then you need to grab that child out of that environment and place him in an environment where he can both be protected, but also, especially with boys are adventurous. They're going to want to try it out. They're competitive. They want to be able to try something new, to risk some things, etc. They need to be allowed to do that. I've heard more mothers talk about, well, I'm not going to have my baby playing no football. I don't want him to get hurt and whatnot. Boys need to try that. Okay, you may have a girl, who loves to run, or loves athletics. He said, well, I don't want my baby to be looking like no man.
Doc, real quick, I just want to add this to what Doc was saying. Give you an example. One of my sons, when he was younger, you know how you put a child in the bed and they roll off the bed? That's quite normal. He wouldn't do that. So I put him on the edge. What I did, first of all, I taught him how to turn. Then I moved into the edge so he would automatically fall off and hit the floor. Why? He need that experience. And understand life is not always centered and safe. And then my daughter, I pushed her off. She held on. I said, oh no, you don't hit that floor. You're going to the floor. If I got to turn the whole bed over, you're going to the floor. Okay. But not to cut Doc off, but I just want to make an interjection real quick. What I want to say, I wanted to get you a question that I wanted to, first thing, please hold your question, is that what we want to look at now is, given all of where we are today, how do you use this now? Regardless of where you sit right now today, because as Doc said, from the 1950s, the family structure has changed. Okay, what do we do now? What's available to you right now for you to help achieve? We can rebuild it. I think when we do rebuild the family, we're going to rebuild it differently. We would like to go back traditionally, but let's say that's just not going to happen. How are we going to do it today? You had a question?
Well, I wanted to address what Mr. Morris, I think it is, said. I did call him and I had an issue with what he said your statement was in regards to, I thought I heard, he says that I heard him wrong, was that mothers are the reason why young men are in jail. And I disagreed with that because I felt like it was a general.
And the problem is that the young girls don't realize they have that influence.
Right.
You can cause a young man to go to college, or you can cause him to go to jail.
Right.
And that's the awakening that I
Now, real quick, hold on, Brother Davis, I want to make sure. Here's something I want to present to you for your consideration as you leave here. In those situations that you may not have the male support that you think you need to have, and you probably need to have, especially for single women, I think what we represent institutionally is the way that you should go. You go to your church. That's the foundation of life itself, of all family relationships or whatever. We go there to seek biblical assistance, male influence, whatever. We come to a social organization. Choose it wisely, one who's responsible, one who can give supervision, and that is in fact their mission. To do that, and thirdly, seek help. Seek help. Because that is not something you alone can do. You lay serious groundwork, because at some point in time, that kid is going to need what these three institutions represent in his or her life. Okay, so it's not that you fail. You're in a struggle. No doubt about it. And society and what's going on in society today does not help. It's far different when I came along than the kids I see today. The opportunities are different, things are different. Remember, you have not failed. What you probably have not done is reached out to the resources in front of you. Church is always strong. There's a biblical, and would you not agree that we all need a biblical foundation?
Amen.
We
Okay,
do,
so-
but a lot of times I don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
there's no follow-up. I mean,
Well,
they start and they don't finish.
correct.
So, I mean, because one of the men that I had was Lawrence Davis. You know Lawrence.
I know Lawrence.
Lawrence was, getting my son, but his life got busy, so he couldn't follow up. You know what I mean? I feel like I've done that. I put people, even with my son's stepfather, there was no follow-up. It was just tough. I said, you gotta apply love when you apply discipline.
True. That's true.
So
That's true.
there's a lot of times no follow-up.
Real quick, hold on a second. Dave in the back.
I have real quick points. I mentored 3 men, one for 33, 37, and now one for 9. And I have 4 children. One of the things that we had a discussion with was the kids' mentality today is, my father's not in my life, but when he comes, he buys me anything I want. Dad, and they said, Mr. Washington, your father went to Columbia, your father this, but your father walked out. You're very clear about that. But what I told my father is he would come, I met all of his girlfriends, and one day I said to him, I said, Dad, I don't want any gifts. I just want quality time with you. Just like we used to, going to play ball. I was having a hard time with the curveball. He took me out. Or we just went for a walk and he talked about maleness, how to dress, how to go to a business interview. So today, the kids are being bought. Respectfully, fathers are coming in and out, and sometimes mothers, periodically, are coming in and out of their lives, and the kids are happy with finances, sneakers, DSL, DS, whatever you call it, and then they have no correlation of what agape or what love is. None. So again, what Coach is talking about is finding that location where they can find good male mentoring and good female mentoring and get wisdom.
You had a question? I'm sorry. Okay.
So you're always talking about finding help for the children. You're a psychologist, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a business card or something in case somebody wanted to?
Yes, I do. I thought no one would ever ask.
Do you have a card or some way that people can contact you?
We'll make it available to you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so very much. So Charles is prompt to me. All of us, we're happy to have you here. Thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next year.
Okay, now that was what it takes. Now y'all.